Welcome to SecOps Unplugged. We've got an ArcSight Recon demo for you today, demonstrated by Steve Maxwell and audio by me, Kevin Swan. In this demo, we'll show you how you can use Recon to threat hunt using Indicator of Compromise lists, or IOC lists, from MISP Threat Intelligence. CIRCL MISP is one of several intelligence feeds we integrate with. Let's look in Recon at the suspicious URLs lookup list from MISP. As you can see with this list, the suspicious URL indicator is shown in the right column. We also have other metadata about the URL from MISP, like the actor or threat group associated with the indicator, as well as the indicator type and the threat level of the indicator. With Recon, we can easily threat hunt based on the indicator, in this case the URL. This could also be other specific IOCs, like IP addresses, email addresses, and domain names. We can use metadata about the indicator like actor, indicator type, and threat level to provide additional context and further refine our hunt. This metadata about the indicator is being provided by MISP. Some examples of this are hunting to find activity seen from a particular actor or threat group, hunting to find activity based on the indicator type, such as a Trojan, botnet, or phishing, hunting to find activity based on the threat level of the indicator. We can use this indicator metadata individually, or we can combine them to provide the proper context to our threat hunt. For example, we can hunt on any botnet activity with a threat level of 3 or higher from any actor or specific actors that may be targeting your company or industry. The example we're going to go through is using suspicious URLs, but any type of indicator can be used, like IP address, domain name, email address, and others. We'll be able to identify users browsing to suspicious URLs, which end up being malicious repositories on github.com. You may be unable to block access to github.com because there are repositories that need to be accessed for legitimate business reasons. Sites like github.com, wordpress.com, and drive.google.com not only host legitimate content, but also host malicious content. Threat hunting based on the URL provides the granularity to see when users are accessing a site that may be allowed by corporate security policy, but has a part of the site that is hosting malicious content. When we start typing in a blank search, Recon will dynamically show query suggestions. As I type in the number 2, it has further refined the suggestions based on what I've typed. I'll delete the number 2 and type the letter R, and we can see different suggestions. Since I'm searching for suspicious and malicious URLs, I'm going to continue to type request URL, but as I'm typing, I can also select request URL from the drop-down dialog box. Next, we see the different conditions. We are going to either type or select enlist. And finally, we are prompted for the list, suspicious URLs URL, and I'll select that. I'll also select a custom field set that will help me focus my threat hunt and investigation. This brings up the results of my search and shows me the events timeline on top and the events below. The events timeline shows the data in a segmented timeline across the specified time range. If I want to look at a particular part of the timeline, I can do that with the range selector. This will change the events panel below based on what I've selected. These 3 columns in the events panel show the contextual metadata from the suspicious URLs lookup list. For each of the events that were found in our hunt, we can see the actors, indicator type, and threat level for each of the suspicious URLs found in the search. Since this metadata is important to our hunt, we'll pin them so they can appear on the left of our events search. We can view the top 10 and bottom 10 of any of the fields or columns, and this will help us prioritize our investigation. We can see the top actors, top indicator types, and top threat levels of these events. We have a number of these events that are attributed to several actors, as well as a large number that have not yet been attributed to a threat group. We are also seeing a large number of events with indicator type backdoor and a threat level of 1 and 3. Here we can see all of the hosts that have browsed to suspicious URLs. When I look at the host names, I can see that an Active Directory server in my development environment is the top host with the most activity, but that's not what concerns me. What concerns me are the Oracle CCDB2 and HRDB01 servers. These are critical servers that have sensitive and confidential financial and human resources information, and we'll want to investigate this. We can also look at this from a user perspective and see the top users that have browsed to suspicious URLs. Here, we can see that the user Lumberg is by far the top uses. Let's do a search to investigate all of the events on these two servers. We'll use the condition contains and parts of the two host names that we saw from our previous search. We can also use the condition equals if we wanted to enter the full host names. Now we can see all of the events and activity to and from these two critical hosts. When we look at the breakdown of the events, we can see the blue coat browsing events to the suspicious URLs, as well as checkpoint firewall events and Microsoft events. When we compare the user who generated these events, we see a different story. Before, when we searched, it appeared that the user Lumberg was the worst offender, but the events and activity he generated were on servers in the development environment, not on these two critical servers. User Milton has browsed to suspicious URLs from these critical servers. Let's see what else we can find. Let's expand our search to look at the Microsoft events generated on these two critical hosts. We can do this by changing the search and adding the device vendor equals Microsoft to the search. Note how Recon will provide suggestions as you type, making it easy for you to build your search criteria. When we look at the Microsoft Sysmon events, we can see that there are executables that have been downloaded to these critical servers. There have been processes that have been created based on these. These hosts should be quarantined and scanned to malicious software. That concludes this demonstration on using Recon to threat hunt using MISP indicators of compromise. If you liked this content, be sure to subscribe to SecOps Unplugged and hit the notification bell so you're notified when new SecOps videos are released. Thanks for watching.